this stuff work? So, like, if somebody out there wanted to try their hand at this, what might be the first piece of equipment that you would recommend for them? So let's just touch on that first, because I'm sure there's a lot of people who want to know.
Yeah, well, I have been asked that very same question many times, that people have contacted me. They're just getting into the paranormal. They've never done an investigation yet. And exactly what you just asked is, you know, what equipment should I be using? What's the best to use? And I have said this many times, that you don't need to go out and spend thousands of dollars on all this equipment. As you and Rachel have said, that your own bodies are your paranormal tools. And that is actually one of the best paranormal tools you can use, is your own body.
Right.
You're going to go into a location, and if you're at all sensitive, you're going to pick up temperature drops. You're going to pick up electrical static charges. You're going to get goosebumps on your arms. The hair on your arm will stand up. And let's say I'm not the least bit sensitive in that regards, like you two are, but I've had that happen to me. That I've had an energy move right through me, and I have never felt anything like that ever before. And so, yeah, so that's what I've always said is, you don't need to go out and spend all this money on the equipment.
Right.
Yeah,
however,
that's
it's
what
fun.
we see in the paranormal TV shows, isn't it? All these investigators out there on the TV shows with all this equipment, you know, using it as if it's gospel, you know, as if it can be relied upon, you know.
Well, I don't put a lot of faith in those TV shows.
No.
A lot of those are it's television entertainment.
Oh yeah,
and
it is. Yeah.
Real,
but I think
true
people watch
paranormal
them.
investigation is nothing like those TV shows. I'm not going to mention any specific ones at this time, but you know, they go into a location and the cameras start running, and all this amazing evidence suddenly happens. The ghosts come flying out of the walls, and you know, and the investigators are screaming and running away. Yeah. And it's like, oh, come on, really? It's one. If you're a true paranormal investigator, you are not going to run from a situation, because if this is what your calling really is, you're not going to run from it, because this is exactly what you are looking for. So why would you run?
Yeah.
And and anybody who's done paranormal investigation knows that the frequency of those phenomenon happening are few and far between. If you get a really good piece of evidence, you're lucky.
Yes.
You know, it's nothing like it is on the television programs.
No, for the most part, I have to agree with that too. I mean, I've done enough of this, and I've been on enough of the TV shows to know. That being said, though, Ian, let's talk about people who aren't sensitive. Like you said, you're not sensitive, right? So how can a piece of equipment help them, and what would be that piece of equipment? So if they're not sensitive at all, what would you recommend that they go out and they get for their first piece of equipment to try?
Okay, well, that's an interesting question. And I have to say that there is no one piece of equipment that is sort of really utilizable for every location, because every single location is different. Mm-hmm. If you are in the basement of an old, dark, abandoned factory, you're going to need equipment that has night vision capability, infrared capability, things that will light up in the dark. If you are out on a beautiful day like today at, say, a cemetery, because you can't go at any other time, that equipment that you would be using in the basement of the factory is going to be useless to you on a bright sunny day, because you are not going to be able to see the lights illuminate. Infrared during the daytime is useless. Mm-hmm. So it really is dependent on the individual location. But having said that, okay, the very first piece of equipment you should go and get, regardless of whether you're a tech head like myself or whether you're sensitive like the two of you, this piece of equipment, I imagine, is probably commonly overlooked by the individuals who are going out for the very first time. A flashlight. A plain old simple flashlight. And I know this answer probably sounds disappointing, but when you're stumbling around in the dark of that old abandoned basement in the factory, you're going to want this to see where you're going to prevent injury. You can't go digging around in your equipment bag for equipment if you can't see what you're doing. So get some kind of a flashlight
ready.
That's number one.
Yeah. You're ready to go and do some investigating.
That's why having the torch on your phone is also an excellent tool. I have probably used that more than anything else ever, is that light on my phone for those very reasons, right? And again, you know, I consider that just a common sense piece of equipment so that I'm not falling down in the dark, right? If I'm like, these are reading glasses, but I don't have great night vision anymore. So for me, that's definitely a great tool to start with is a flashlight. And again, flashlights have other purposes. For me, what I've noticed about a flashlight is that you can use it to illuminate things that you believe you're seeing. So in the case of something like pareidolia, right, where we believe we could be looking at a wall or a doorway or even into the trees, and we might think that we see a figure there or a face or something. But if you shine that flashlight on, it really does help you discover that it is just your eyes playing tricks with the light and shadow. Because if something is there, that flashlight doesn't cause it to disappear, right? Regardless of what it is. Because I know that I've used my phone a couple of times in situations where we've been in a dark building and there is something there, and if I shine my phone in the direction that whatever it may be doesn't go away, it's still there, right? So whether it is a shadow, spirit, a orb, anything like that, right? I find that flashlights and cell phone lights and things like that don't make it
a bit deceiving, like you said. Like, you know, people think they see movement on a wall because they're shining their torch in that direction.
That too, right? I mean, there's a number of things that, of course, could be, but that's a really good a good piece of common sense equipment. I would agree with.
Absolutely.
I have
just to add to that, bring extra batteries for your torch, because more than once.
Yes.
My batteries have drained during an investigation,
right.
and also make sure your batteries are fully charged, because when you go out, I've done investigations where I was communicating, and the torches would flash. That sort of thing, and it would drain a lot of energy, you know. And we would say, you know, flash twice for yes and once for no, but you know, you got to make sure that that there's enough energy for that to be done.
I mean, the beauty nowadays too is like you can buy those little pocket flashlights at the dollar store, right? So you can have 8 or 5 of them, you know, on standby.
But they do run out. The batteries run out. Like
they do.
Get a good quality one.
Flashlight, number one for you, Ian, is a good piece of equipment. So now let's talk about actual ghost hunting gadgets in terms of what was the very first piece of equipment you purchased outside of a flashlight?
First piece of equipment. Okay. I see we're sort of going through a process here.
Yeah, why not? It
Okay,
helps people, right? I think it helps people.
Yep. So you mentioned cell phones. You just held up your phone with your little flashlight on it. Let's talk about cameras. And that was actually the first piece of equipment I took to an investigation, is because everybody owns a camera, whether it's a cell phone or whether you have an actual camera. Now, I've mentioned before, you know what my opinion about cell phone cameras is.
Yeah, well, mine
in terms of paranormal investigation.
Yeah.
Cell phone cameras are great.
They're not reliable, though.
If you are on vacation in Florida and you want to take some family photographs, as a paranormal investigation tool, I can't stand the cell phone cameras because, as you say, they are unreliable.
Yes.
So if you want to go on an investigation and you want to take photographs, hoping that you're going to get orbs, and that's a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah, we've done shows on that.
But in my opinion, is drop the cell phone and go and get a proper camera. Now, again, depending on your budget and how much means you have, you can go and you can get the nice fancy expensive camera, or you can just get the little camera that just fits in your hand. Yeah, and that has like one button on it. And
so, Ian, have you ever used a thermal camera? Because I worked with a team that bought one.
We have. My husband has one, and it works great.
Not in the thermal aspect. I haven't. No.
Infrared.
But I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
This
little cameras are really useful.
This simple little camera, this takes the best pictures.
Yeah. It
really does. I'm surprised, considering it's just a very inexpensive camera compared to some. Yeah. So if still photography is your thing that you want to explore in the paranormal, go for it. But again, it opens up a whole can of worms that you've got to understand the principles behind photography, that when you look at these pictures and you see orbs, chances are it's not paranormal whatsoever.
Right, yes.
Because of bugs and dust and hair in front of the lens.
And insects. And there's
it's a whole can of worms. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. So, Ian, that's a great thing. So let's just say that, because I do believe a lot of people may have like a little pocket, what we call a pocket Instamatic camera. These days, they have really great abilities for being compact. The size of the photograph, the megabytes or the megapixels in the photograph have greatly improved over the years. No, I don't even think you can find a camera even on a phone anymore that is like a 2 megapixel camera. They're mostly like 16, 18, 25, like they just go up and up. So you're going to get a good or a decent quality photograph. Now, let's kind of let Ian run wild here. Because I know a lot of people do have questions, right? But I really want to hear from you what what you like to use and what are your favorite pieces, because I do think your experience can help people.
Yeah.
Okay, well, since we touched on the photography end of things, as I say, I'm not a huge fan of the still photography within paranormal investigation. I like using video. Right. And maybe this comes down to my background in film and video and television that I did for years. So I'm kind of biased towards the video aspect of documenting everything.
Right.
And again, you can get some great little video cameras. This one is just a standard video camera. Again, you want to go to Florida for vacation, works great. But this one, all I do, I push a button and it switches over to infrared.
Oh, wow.
Spectrum filming night vision.